episode for review, A New Hope. In the year 1977, what would soon become the world's greatest science fantasy story was released. Known simply as Star Wars at the time, Star Wars Episode 4 was the start of a legacy and an epic saga. To this day, several people consider Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope to be not only one of the best films in the Star Wars series, but one of the best films overall. Its fan base is huge, and its appeal is even bigger. What is it about this film that is so good that it manages to hold up to this day? How was this film able to start an epic saga that would span decades and generations of fans? Most importantly, does this film still stand up after so many years and after so many changes? Let's find out.
Well, we managed to get through that train wreck of a movie trilogy, so let's go ahead and take care of the original films, or as I like to call them, the Orig Tridge. The films that made Star Wars into the franchise that it is today. The films that made a legacy.
Let's go ahead and start out with ObiWan. I mean, we did that for the first 3 films, so this is the last time we're actually going to be able to analyze him and look at him as his own character.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
You mean Ben Kenobi, old Ben Kenobi?
What are you talking about? Princess Leia said, quote, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." Come on, that's like the most iconic line ever. You know who Obi-Wan is.
No, but his name is Ben. Besides, the most iconic freaking line is, "That's no moon, that's a space station."
Alright. Let's compromise. You can call him Ben, I can call him Obi-Wan. We're both right. Now then, Obi-Wan is presented in this film as a mysterious old man and a master of the ancient ways of the Force. He's one of the remnants of the old world, and he acts very different from other characters. He acts as if though he doesn't belong, because in some way he feels like he doesn't belong in this world. Obi-Wan acts very reserved. He often keeps to himself, and he only really comments on the situation when he needs to. He's more of an observer than anything else. He watches the character and acts when he needs to. The only real exception to this is that of his interactions with Luke Skywalker.
Ben takes Luke and begins teaching him the ways of the Force. Luke dreams of leaving behind his small planet and going off to do great things. In the beginning, Luke acted pretty much like your average young adult / teenager. He wanted more in life than just staying on his small planet and being a moisture farmer. I mean, we've all had those dreams of going out and making it big in Hollywood and whatever, right? You know, this is something we've all gone through, and Luke's going through the same thing we have, so he's that much more relatable. He often felt like he was being held back by his aunt and uncle. While Luke, wanting more, could make him seem whiny at times, he was never annoying, and he seemed like a real person because of his whininess. As the film goes on, he grows, matures, and learns to take on new responsibilities. He gets to realize his dream of doing more with his life, but at a great cost. Luke serves the role of a young boy dreaming for more in his life, for greatness, and he provides the audience a character that we can relate to because he feels like a real person with real development.
Helping Obi-Wan and Luke off in their journey is the renowned smuggler Han Solo. They recruit Han's services since he has the fastest ship around, the Millennium Falcon, noteworthy for completing the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Han is snarky, skeptic, and he's always looking out for number 1. That's right, himself. Han is shown to be doubtful in many things, such as the Force, and he believes Obi-Wan to be nothing more than an old fool. He joins up with Luke and Obi-Wan simply because of the fact that they are paying him a lot of money. Now, despite his rough exterior, Han really can care about people if he gets to know them. The most evident example of this is Han's soft side and his friendship with Chewbacca. Han and Chewie get along very well, and their friendship shows a different side of Han than the one he shows to most other people. Throughout the film, Han also grows to have a close friendship with Luke, and he offers to take him off with him and leave off with him and Chewie rather than sticking around with the rebels. Han does manage to have a change of heart in the end, and he manages to come through in for the rebels when they need him the most. Also, just so we're all clear, Han shot first.
No, he didn't. What movie were you watching?
What do you mean he didn't? Don't tell me you approve of the changes, because if so, this review's over and you're leaving.
Oh no, those were horrible. That was the worst change Lucas could make. No. What I mean is that Han didn't shoot first, because he was the only one to shoot. I mean, Greedo didn't get a chance to pull out his blaster before he died. I mean, it's Han. I'll bet you have. Pew! Greedo, I'm dead now, in my language, in the Rhodian language. And so that's the thing. He was the only one to shoot, so you can't say he shot first if he's the only one to shoot.
Oh, I get it. You're saying Han didn't shoot first. Han was just the only person to shoot in general.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Makes sense.
Let's talk about the other member of this duo of Han and Chewbacca, which is, of course, Chewbacca. So, Chewbacca, his nickname is Chewie. And Chewie's an interesting character because of the fact that he's not understood by the audience. I mean, he speaks Wookiee, he roars and makes animal noises, which is awesome. But we don't understand him, mainly because there's no subtitles. And the characters are the ones that basically tell us what Chewbacca is saying. This makes him an interesting and very distinct character, because all we know about what he says is from what other characters say and point out. I mean, it's kind of fun to try and guess what Chewbacca is saying, though, by looking at the situation, the context, the body language, and how the characters react not only to what he's saying, but to the situation at hand.
The last prominent character is that of Princess Leia Organa. Now, despite her title as Princess, Leia is definitely not a pushover, and she's one of the strongest characters in this film. She manages to resist several different forms of tough interrogation, and she keeps strong despite her situations and circumstances. She also helps Luke and Han escape from the Death Star, even though they were supposed to be the ones who were rescuing her. She shows a lot of will and determination when she doesn't give up the location of the Rebel base or the location of the Death Star plans, despite everything that's going on. She even tells the Empire a lie when they threaten to destroy her home planet of Alderaan. Her tough nature, though, ends up conflicting with Han's attitude, and it leads them to constantly argue with each other because they both think they're right and they both think the other person is wrong. On the other hand, contrasting with this, she gets along very well with Luke because Luke is much more subjective. He's able to go along and listen. Leia is a very strong character, and she's a great leader for the Rebel forces.
Now, what's a film without a great antagonist? In this film, our heroes are members of a rebel alliance against a great and powerful empire. Most prominent, though, is the Empire's Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader. Vader's a mysterious character. He has a history with Ben that's just as shrouded in mystery as he is. Vader sticks to the ways of the Force and believes it to have more power than even the Death Star, a giant space station that can blow up planets, mind you. He conflicts with some of the Empire's generals and commanders due to them not having faith in the Force. I mean, at one point, he literally says, "Your lack of faith disturbs me." So Vader is very menacing, and he's a threat with his mastery of the dark side of the Force, his skills with a lightsaber, and he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe to go face someone head-on. During the trench run on the Death Star, he goes into his own TIE fighter and starts blowing up rebel ships. If that's not badass, I don't know what is. He's a great villain that serves to show how much force the Empire has. Get it? Force? Like the Force? BALLIN wrote it, blame him.
So, how about the pacing? I mean, we already established that the prequel films had really bad pacing, but these are the original films. They came out first, so they must have gotten the pacing right. Didn't they? The answer is yes, of course. Let's make a few notes on the pacing just to prove my point. The film itself is about 121 minutes. Right away, it starts off with the Empire attacking a rebel ship, the Tantive 4. Vader himself appears 5 minutes into the film, right away. And let me just say that introducing the main villain this early was a great step in this film. Once the Tantive 4 scene is over, it transitions over to Tatooine. Luke appears about 15 minutes into the film, he meets ObiWan about 25 minutes into the film, and they head off to Mos Eisley to meet Han and Chewie 48 minutes into the film. With this, you can see that the first half-ish of the film is spent on Tatooine. This is very important, and I'll explain why in just a moment. They all arrive on the Death Star to rescue Leia about 56 minutes into the film. Vader confronts Obi-Wan, and they have a pretty short 2-minute duel. Now, I know back in my review of the prequel films, I complained whenever a duel was short, but it works well here because this is the first lightsaber duel in all of Star Wars. It's a new concept, and having it short goes to show just how quickly it can end. It serves the purpose that it needs. They escape the Death Star 97 minutes into the film, and the final attack on the Death Star, it lasts about 12 minutes. The way I see it, taking all this into account, this film is split up into 3 very nice sections. The first section of the film is that of the Tatooine scenes, that works to establish Luke and Obi-Wan. It also does very well in getting the viewer to know Luke, know who he is, how his life is, and what he wants in life. It's important to focus on your protagonist, and devoting the entire first section of the film to Luke was a very good move. The second part would have to be that of the Death Star trying to rescue Leia. This part serves to show interactions between the characters. It shows some character growth, and it shows that Ben, Obi-Wan, however you want to call him, that he knows Vader, that they have some kind of history. Finally, the third section would be their escape, the final attack on the Death Star, and the closing ceremony. This wraps up the film very nicely, it gives you a nice action film, and it leaves you wanting more. The 3 sections all work together. Sure, they might not be the same length, but they're as long as they need to be, and they work very nicely to create this wonderful film.
So the pacing might be good, but what flaws exist in this film? I mean, it's amazing. No one doubts that. But is it perfect? Let's find out. The interesting thing is that most of the problems with the film exist only because of the prequel trilogy. For example, they constantly refer to the Force as an ancient religion, and they talk about the old world, but we know from episode 3, it's only been about 20 years. That's nothing in the galactic span of time, especially for Star Wars. Han Solo shouldn't be as skeptical about the Force, seeing as how he's been all over the galaxy, and chances of him not believing in the Force are pretty low, realistically speaking. I mean, these problems are caused by the prequel trilogy, and that's because Lucas didn't really plan anything out. Yeah, I know some of you are gonna say, he planned it all out from the very beginning and blah blah blah. No, he didn't. If anyone tells you otherwise that he did plan it, they're liars, they don't know what they're talking about. He did not plan anything. And it's evident in this, because if it was more than a 20-year gap, they wouldn't be saying things like ancient religions or the old ways. Things like that. I mean, in one scene on the Death Star, Vader comes out and says that the Imperial Senate has finally been dissolved and that the last remnant of the old Republic is gone. And so that kind of goes to show that if it's an old Republic, you know, how old is it? How long has it been since the Empire formed? How old is this Empire? Ignoring the prequel trilogy problems that happen in this movie, it's still very enjoyable. Sure, there's a few problems here and there, but ultimately they're very minor, and to point them out would just be nitpicking, and honestly, the movie still is amazing even with those small mistakes.
It goes without saying, but the music in this film is very amazing. The music in Star Wars is very iconic, and seeing as how this was the first Star Wars film, this is what helped set the standard as high as it really is. One noticeable track that I just can't go without talking about is the Mos Eisley Cantina song. You know, the song that plays when they enter the cantina to go find Han Solo? You know exactly the one I'm talking about. It's happy, it's upbeat, it's energetic. Bum 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 bum. I apologize for that, but I just had to. It's just that good. Overall, Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope is 10 out of 10 as its own film, and it's your nice and standard Star Wars film. So, let us know what you think of Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. We enjoyed it. We hope you all enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you next time, because we've got 2 more films to go, and we got a few more days before the new one.
Yay!